Let's take a look at the sky this February. We'll start with the planet Venus, which is the brightest object that we see in the southwest. How many of you have seen Venus? You can't miss it. Actually, if you look about 10 minutes to 3 in the afternoon, you can see it in broad daylight by looking straight south and about 2/3 of the way up. And a lot of people are finding it very easy to see. I've been getting emails and stuff about, what is that? And this is a camera view with an ultraviolet filter, so you can see details in the clouds. To your eye in a telescope, it looks kind of white. In the morning sky, we see other planets. Jupiter and Saturn are nice and high just before dawn. So here's a recent picture of Jupiter. And Saturn. Saturn's kind of low in the sky, so even people who are really good with imaging are still getting a little bit blurry images. But one thing I'll point out is the rings now are just about at their maximum tilt to us. So, a few years ago, they were 7 years ago, 7.5, they were edge on. Now they're about at their maximum tilt. We have really spectacular eclipses coming up this month, the full moon of February 11th will graze the outer edge of the Earth's shadow, and we would get what's called a penumbral eclipse. The midpoint will have passed by the time the moon rises here, but we will see a few minutes of shading that should be noticeable. This is a picture taken one eclipse cycle before. We call it Saros, 18 years before. So this is what somebody seeing the maximum eclipse would be able to see. Ours will be a little bit more subtle. And at the time that picture was taken, there was a Japanese probe orbiting the moon with a high-def TV camera, and it got a picture of the Earth rising, as the spacecraft brought it into view, and partially eclipsing the sun, which is what causes a penumbral eclipse, which is not spectacular compared to a total lunar eclipse. Then, whenever there's a lunar eclipse, it's always followed 2 weeks later by by a solar eclipse. And so 2 weeks later, on February 26th, there's an annular solar eclipse. Annular eclipses happen when the moon is too far from the Earth to produce a solar eclipse, but the lineup is the same. So the moon's centered on the sun, but you see a ring of bright sunlight. So people in South America and parts of Africa will be able to see this annular eclipse. But again, this is kind of like the penumbral eclipse. It's kind of neat, but you have to have filters to watch it, and it's nothing like a total solar eclipse like we'll be having in August. So this is 6 months now, the last eclipse before the big total solar eclipse that we'll see in August.
But everyone 21st. Here has travel plans for it.
That's right. Unfortunately, school starts that day too, so you have to choose. That's right.
Seriously, you young people in the audience, you tell your parents, I don't want to go to school. I want to see an eclipse. I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't say that, but good.
I'm sure they'll understand. You probably could do something for extra credit, I would think.
Yeah, hopefully. Teachers, they'll understand. They better.
All right, so this is a comet we mentioned to you actually last month. It was bright towards Christmas, and a lot of people are calling it a Christmas comet. It is now rounding the sun, and actually tomorrow morning, well, of course it's cloudy, but if it weren't cloudy and you went out to the desert, it would be your first chance to see it. And let's talk about this comet. It's the 45th periodic comet. In other words, it's a comet that comes around again and again. It was the 45th one discovered to do so. It was discovered in 1948 by these amateur astronomers, which I'm not going to pronounce, but since Bill's great with Comet 67P, he can do 45P. That's very good. Thank you. But that's how they get their name. So this is the path of the comet. Here's what it did last month, but now it's moving towards the Earth. It'll be only about 8 million miles from us on February 11th. And this is the path it will take through the sky. I don't expect you to memorize this, but what this path means is that when the moon's out of range for interfering with it by February the 11th or so, this comet will be overhead most of the night throughout much of February. So it should be easy to see as long as you get out of the glare of the city. You'll need binoculars. It might be kind of fuzzy, but it's very photogenic. If you have a telephoto lens and a DSLR camera, you might get some really spectacular pictures. So.
And to add to the Sky Report, this is not a February thing, but perhaps some of you saw a story in the news that caught a lot of attention that there will be a new visible to the naked eye star that will be coming to a constellation near you, to Cygnus, the swan, in 2022. This is a prediction of a nova, of a star that is actually two stars orbiting each other. What we believe is going on here is that two stars are orbiting each other. Those are two different views of them, so close to each other that they share one atmosphere. They've already kind of gotten close enough that their atmospheres is called a common envelope binary. And so as they orbit each other, they're getting faster and faster and faster and faster. And so you can predict when they will merge. And these scientists predict it'll be in 2022. So, and it'll be so bright, we'll be able to see it with our own eyes. So come back in 2022. We will no doubt be talking about it. Here's sort of an artist conception of it.
What month?
They didn't say. They said 2022, or give or take a year. So, I think, what they did say, of course, this is always the thing. I need more telescope time to get it really nailed down. So when we do get it nailed down, we'll certainly let it. It'd be fun if you could really nail it down and go out and watch it. I mean, that would be pretty great. But